Hello, you're watching the Ruslan Belov channel. Active fighting on the Ukrainian front continues, and it seems no one is planning to slow down in the coming months. Before we begin analyzing the situation on the front, I would sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps its development. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. So friends, the past 24 hours have been very eventful in terms of territorial gains. Just to give you some context, over the last day alone, more than 40 square kilometers came under Russian control, which is a very solid result for July. Such advances during this month are quite rare. On one sector, an important one, Russian troops pushed as deep as 7 kilometers into Ukrainian positions. But let's go through everything step by step. We'll start from the northern sectors and gradually move southward. A few words about Sumi Region. There were no gains here over the past day, but I keep getting asked about Kondratovka. What's happening there? Did Russian troops lose the village or not? Are they still encircled or not? Well, here's the answer. No, the guys are no longer in a semi-encircled state. No, they're not in operational encirclement, simply because they withdrew from those unfavorable positions. At the same time, they entered from the north, regained previously lost positions, and are now advancing along Gagarin Street. So here's the situation. They left the positions where they had been at a disadvantage, where they were in an operational encirclement, or partial encirclement if you will, but simultaneously entered the northern part of Kondratovka. As a result, the Ukrainian forces never actually took control of the village. Right now, fighting is ongoing along Gagarin Street. Now let's move to the gains and start with Kharkiv region. Very good news came from there in the past 24 hours. First, take a look. A significant area, especially by Kharkiv standards, came under Russian control. The depth of the advance was nearly 5 kilometers, precisely 4.8 kilometers. One settlement came under Russian control, the village of Radkovka. The total area captured over the past day in this sector is 16.5 square kilometers. That is an outstanding result for the Kharkiv region. What's even more important is that the current positions are now less than a kilometer from the outskirts of Kupiansk. Just over 600 meters to be exact. This breakthrough came as a complete surprise to the Ukrainian forces, who believed their defense line there was solid and impenetrable. But during this rapid advance, a huge number of Ukrainian troops were eliminated. I even posted a video on my Telegram channel showing Ukrainian soldiers being taken out one by one during the breakthrough toward Kupiansk. As for future prospects near Kupiansk, since Radkovka is now under Russian control, the logical next target is the village of Moskovka, located just across the road. If you look at the map, it's practically connected to Kupiansk. The distance between them is barely 30 meters. However, the breakthrough in the Kharkiv region wasn't the largest over the past day. The biggest advance was 7 kilometers deep. Let me also say a few more words about Kupiansk. According to fighters on the ground, the depth of the Russian advance here is greater than officially reported. They say Russian forces are already present in Kupiansk itself, on the northern streets of the city, and there's no reason not to believe them. We'll wait for visual confirmation, of course, but if their words are accurate, the battle for Kupiansk has already begun. Still, as I said, for detailed analysis, we await video or photo confirmation. Let's move on. Another important area with solid gains is Luhansk region. Over the past 24 hours, Russian troops advanced 2.5 kilometers south of the village of Grakovka and reached the administrative border of the region. The area taken under control is slightly more than 5 square kilometers. To put it into perspective, as of now there are only 54 square kilometers left to clear in Luhansk, and the entire region will be under full Russian control. What remains is to clear the area north of Grakovka, the section with the village of Novo Economicnoi, and parts of Novoyegorovka and Nadia. Once that's done, it will be possible to declare with full confidence, and, more importantly, full accuracy, that 100% of Luhansk region is under Russian control. I say this because similar claims have been made before. For example, on June 30th, the head of Luhansk region, Pasechnik, declared the region fully secured. But that wasn't true. Maybe from his point of view, with 99.9% under control, it seemed accurate. But in reality, over 50 square kilometers were still not under Russian control. Given the current trend, though, those remaining areas should be cleared soon. Moving on, there are no updates from the Siversk area, no progress there. The only notable event was a few FAB bombs striking the town yesterday. It was quite a sight. Next, very important, one might even say critically important, progress occurred yesterday on the southern approaches to Konstantinovka. Just look at this, a huge area, over 20 square kilometers, came under Russian control. In the heavily fortified residential area of Yablonvka, the advance was an impressive 3 kilometers. And I say impressive because this wasn't open fields. It was dense residential and fortified urban terrain. 3 kilometers of gains in such conditions in a single day is an excellent result. A video showing the Russian flag was filmed in the eastern part of the village, confirming that all of Yablonvka is now under Russian control. South of there, another area was cleared. This pocket saw a staggering 7-kilometer advance. But more important than the numbers is this. The last major Ukrainian fortified area protecting Konstantinovka from the south has fallen. Fighting for that fortified area lasted over a month, almost 6 weeks, since the first entry into Yablonevka's eastern outskirts. And now it's over. The stronghold has collapsed. Now look northward. It's all clear. No villages, no major fortifications, only a small area across the Bychok River remains to be cleared. The southern route to Konstantinovka is now open. The only thing left is to take control of the northern edge of Alexandro-Kalinovo, and all southern fortifications will be under Russian control. From the current positions, the distance to Konstantinovka is about 7 kilometers. From the south, 7 kilometers. From the east, near Belaya Gora, 6 kilometers, and from the northeast, near Stupochki, 5 kilometers. So as you can see, a coordinated operation is underway to approach the city from 3 directions, south, east, and northeast. The autumn and winter campaigns will be focused on capturing this city. There's no doubt about that. What else? Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced the capture of Novo Economicnoi. If this reflects reality on the ground, and not just in the reports, then the route to Mirnograd from the east is now open. However, we haven't yet seen any visual confirmation. I asked fighters on the ground, and they said there was progress in the town, but they don't yet know if it's fully under Russian control. We'll wait for objective confirmation, videos or photos from the area. I expect it within a day or two. To summarize, the Ukrainian armed forces made no advances over the past 24 hours, while Russian forces gained control over more than 43 square kilometers. Once again, for July, this is a very strong result. That's it for now regarding the situation on the front. Now let's briefly touch on politics, as it is particularly relevant at the moment. A journalist from The Telegraph has called on Zelensky to resign amid a scandal involving Nabu. In a column published by the British newspaper The Telegraph, journalist Owen Matthews directly urged Volodymyr Zelensky to step down following the scandal with Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, NABU. There is a danger that he will follow in the footsteps of his corrupt predecessors, and he should resign for the sake of Ukraine, the journalist wrote. Our source reports that Western institutions will now demand that Zelensky dismiss the head of Yermak's office, according to the Telegram channel Legitimny. All available data suggests that media attacks on Yermak will continue, and his protection will begin to collapse once Richard Moore steps down as head of MI6. This is expected to happen in the fall. People are fed up with Yermak. His key mistake was attempting to challenge the globalists by dismantling their main stronghold of control over Kyiv, Nabu and Sapo. Even if he tries to reverse course, his sponsors are unlikely to forgive him. Yermak has become a threat because he is now the sole manager of Ukraine, which doesn't suit the globalists at all. No one wants to see the dictatorship that Yermak is now pushing strengthened. Zelensky and Yermak still hope to strike a new deal with the globalists, who benefit from prolonging the conflict and drawing Trump into the Ukrainian crisis. Zelensky is unlikely to fully restore Nabu's powers, as this would signal weakness to Western handlers, a concern raised by multiple sources. Most likely, Zelensky and Yermak will try, as usual, to betray their partners. Sure, Zelensky might reverse the changes, especially since he's already managed to retrieve and destroy all the case files related to his inner circle. However, a source within the president's office claims that Zelensky fears Nabu operatives may have managed to copy or hide a significant amount of evidence. compromising materials, proof. Knowing Yermak's plans to seize control of these anti-corruption bodies. If Nabu did pull off such a move, all of it could come to light when the globalists decide to discard Zelensky and Yermak. Their approval ratings in the West are visibly crumbling. Calls for resignation have already begun. The inflated hero may soon become an anti-hero. Kiev and Zelensky's inner circle are facing difficult times ahead. We're watching closely. The British are now leading the takedown of Zelensky. The Telegraph writes that Zelensky must go. His presidential term officially expired in May 2024, and he remains in power only by invoking wartime emergency powers, despite growing calls for a national unity government. He is no longer part of the solution to Ukraine's crisis. He has become part of the problem. So far, Vladimir Putin shows no signs of taking peace seriously. He harbors personal hatred towards Zelensky, which, while understandable during wartime, is unlikely to lead to peace. A new Ukrainian president would mark a restart, especially if he or she were willing to protect the rights of Ukraine's Russian-speaking population, which is a key demand from the Kremlin and paradoxically also from the EU. Over the past year, Zelensky has used wartime emergency powers to expel, prosecute, and imprison many of his main political opponents and critics. Opposition media outlets have been shut down, and thousands of businesses were seized by Zelensky's allies under the pretext of alleged Russian ties. Zelensky's assault on anti-corruption agencies was a massive and unjustified mistake. Naturally, the British have no interest in peace. What they want is a convulsive war to the bitter end, hoping to weaken Russia through sanctions, sabotage, and a reduction in the Slavic population by any means. That is their real plan. There are clear signs that Zelensky is breaking ties with Europe and Britain, and he's doing so for several reasons. Europe can no longer fully fund the conflict or provide sufficient arms. Zelensky is likely preparing for a deal and is hedging his bets by dismantling Nabu and Sapo. He understands well that if peace is reached, his main enemy will no longer be Russia, but Europe, led by Britain. This is supplemented by the Telegram channel Open Ukraine, which writes, "This is no longer just a takedown, it's a crusade against Zelensky." The Times writes that limiting Nabu's powers was the biggest gamble of Zelensky's political life and now threatens to tarnish his image in the West, where he was once seen as a hero resisting Russian aggression. The new law raises serious questions about Ukraine's commitment to joining the European Union. It's a remarkable shift for a man whose decision to stay in Kharkiv at the start of the war made him an international symbol of freedom. Zelensky's decision has now placed him on a collision course with Ukraine's powerful civil society. The protests that began in Kharkiv on Tuesday evening are unprecedented in the 3 years of the Ukrainian crisis, highlighting the depth of public resistance, the article says. Most interestingly, there aren't that many of the so-called untouchable Soros protégés, but their potential downfall could bring with it everyone who harbors deep hatred towards Zelensky. And that's where the real risk of an explosion lies. Thank you for watching, friends. Stay informed, stay safe, and see you in the next update. Take care.